Hi guys and girls, I want to go over answers with you from yesterday's lab sheet, Data Investigation 1.1, where you had to fill in a frequency table and create a line plot. And I want to talk to you a little bit about taking that data and comparing it with US name links, which were name links from your class, and then Chinese name links. So I'm going to turn the camera around and go over answers to that lab sheet with you. Okay. All right, so first of all, this is the lab sheet I'm talking about. It had your class names on it. You had to count how many letters in each name, and then I put the answers on there for you today. And then you had a frequency table to fill in according to those name links. And then the same went for Chinese name links, and you had to count how many letters in the name and fill in a frequency table for those name links as well. And then the new part of the assignment is talking about a line plot. So in this part of the lab sheet, it's telling you that a line plot is a graph that shows organized data values on a number line using X's or other symbols such as dots. The X's are placed above the number to represent how often each value is represented. A line plot made with dots is also sometimes referred to as a dot plot. So the only difference between a line plot and a dot plot is with a line plot they'll use X's, with a dot plot they'll use dots. Okay? So, for part C, I asked you to create 2 line plots, one for each class set of data. So first you had to make a line plot for the names of the students in your class, and then you had to make a line plot for the Chinese name length data. So let's start by just taking a look at the data from your class. We're starting our line plot with length of US class names as our main title, and then we have our line plot numbered, and I'm going to add a title for our x-axis. Let's just put name links. Okay, and then if I look at our frequency table here, I'm going to look and see if I have any data for 4 letters in somebody's name. And I don't. 4 is not even in my table. How about 5 letters? If I look at 5, I don't have any students that had 5 letters in their name. I don't have any that had 6 letters, 7 letters, or 8 letters. My data doesn't start until 9. And with 9 letters in a name, I actually have 2 people that had 9 letters in their name. So with my frequency table, I'm looking at 2 people above the 9. So on my line plot, I'm going to make 2 X's, one above the other. And I'm going to try to make them about the same size, the best I can. With 10, it looks like I have 3 people that have 10 letters in their name. So I'm going to make 3 X's, try to make them about the same size, one above the other. 11, it looks like I have 4 people, so I'm going to make 4 X's. And you can see where now the frequency table is really helpful because all of my data is organized. Instead of looking at my information here and saying, oh, 13, here's a 13 and putting an X. There's a 12, putting an X, a 14, putting an X, a 16, putting an X, a 9, putting an X, another 9, putting an X, and maybe missing one of the numbers or a couple of the numbers or not remembering where I left off. I have everything organized. Here, I was just talking and I might have forgot where I left off. But if I go back and I look at the place where I stopped making my X's, it was at 11, and I already marked 11 here. So I'm going to look at 12 next. There's 7. That tells me to make 7 X's. So again, try to make them about the same size. And I'm just going to continue with my data to finish up my line plot here for US names. So 13, looks like I have 2 of them. 14, I have 5. I don't have any 15s. 16, I have 3, so I'm going to leave 15 blank. 17, I don't have any. 18, I have 1, and 19, I have 1. Okay, all right, so let's take a look at the Chinese name length data with our frequency table so that we can compare our line plots here. And I'm adding my x-axis title for the Chinese data. And I'm going to repeat the same process here. So I'm looking at my frequency table, and for 4 name length of 4 letters in a name, I have 2. So their name lengths, you can see right away, start a lot smaller than ours. I have 2 people with 5 letters in their name. I have 4 people with 6 letters in their name. 3 people with 7 letters. 1 person with 8 letters. And 2 people with 9 letters in their name. So if I go and I take a look now at our 2 graphs, you can see right away that there is a huge difference between name lengths of US names and name lengths of Chinese names. And that's what our next page is going to discuss. So I'm going to grab that from underneath here. And the very first part of our next page talks about distribution of data in a graph. It says the distribution of data describes the organized data set as a whole. It often describes the shape of the data set. For example, one could say, most of the data is located near the left of the graph. That kind of looks like what's happening here with our Chinese names. Or the distribution shows a mode of 14 because 14 has the most X's above it in the graph. If I look at our graph for our US name lengths and I look to see what has the most X's above it, I'm going to look and see that actually is the 12 here. This would be my mode, which we're going to get to in just a minute on our worksheet. Okay, so part D of our worksheet asks us to answer the questions below according to the data distribution. It's asking us where is most of the data located in the US graph and in the Chinese graph. Well, in the Chinese graph, we said that most of it's located to the left of the graph, and it's actually called skewed. So I'm writing a note here that the data is skewed to the left, okay? Because most of our data is to the left of that graph. So I'm going to circle here that it's to the left and write that it's skewed to the left on your answer sheet. Okay. Now the US is a little bit different because it doesn't really look like it's skewed to the right or the left. It looks like with this graph it's more toward the middle. So I'm going to write that it's more toward the middle of the numbers that we have here. We do have some data that looks like it's way over to the right here. So if we numbered this and it started here, we could say, depending on how it's numbered, maybe it could be skewed to the right. And we're going to talk about that in some of our later investigations. Okay, the next part of our worksheet is asking us to talk about the minimum and maximum values. Now, when it's asking to compare minimum and maximum values, it is not asking us to look at the smallest number on the number line. It is asking us to look at the smallest number in our data. I also want to clarify that it does not mean which number only has one x or which number doesn't have an x at all. It's asking for the smallest number. So where does our data begin? So with the US, our data begins at 9. You can think of it this way. Who in your class has the shortest name? And in our class, that would be Eva and Tawny. They both have 9 letters in their name. In the Chinese data, we're looking at Li and Yu. They both have 4 letters in their name. Okay? Now, if we talk about the maximum number of letters for our class, that would be way over here, 19. And that would be Cameron, because Cameron has a super awesome long last name, Langendorfer. Okay, so Cameron is our maximum value at 19. And for the Chinese, their maximum value is a huge difference from ours. Their maximum value is actually our minimum value. Their maximum value is only 9. And they have 2 people that have that maximum value. Okay, so I'm going to move over to this answer key page again so that you can see how to fill in that chart there. And the reason that we're comparing maximum and minimum is so that we can find the range. So the range is the difference between the minimum and the maximum values in a set of data. If we subtract the minimum from the maximum values in the table, we're going to get our range. So 19 minus 9 here for the US is going to give us a range of 10. And if we take 9 minus 4 for the Chinese, that's going to give us a range of 5. Okay? All right. And then the next part, I mentioned earlier in the video, the mode. The mode is the value that appears the most frequently in a set of data. So for example, if I'm looking at the set of data that I've listed here, you can clearly see that there are more 5s than any of the other numbers. If I go back and look at my line plot, I mentioned for the US that 12 had a bunch of X's above it. So that is our mode for the US, 12. It has the most X's, which means most of the people in our class have 12 letters in their name. Some of you might be saying, that's me, that's me. Okay? Now, if I go to the Chinese, a lot of them have the same number of letters in their name. Our data is super close together, but our mode actually is right here with 6. So I'm going to write that down for your answers. And then that concludes our answers for Investigation 1.1 worksheet. And I'm going to flip the camera back around here. Remember, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and email me. And I just want to tell all of you that I miss you. It's good to see you, and I hope to actually see you soon, maybe in a Google Meet, or even personally would be even better. All right, until then,